Yo, what's up, guys? Jay Martin here. So, today's video is a little bit of a personal one. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but of course, this isn't a total sob story, but it'll be a perfect segue into the adage your situation isn't your final destination. Now, if you're someone that struggled with finding your purpose or your talent and really just trying to figure out what your kung fu is, speaking as a friend here, I just want you to really know that you are one decision from changing your life. And really absorb that you're one new meeting, one new relationship, one new action, one new decision from really finding your gift. And also one new subscribe and like button, but I'll leave that up to you. So let's start from the beginning. Now, growing up, I was definitely under a lot of pressure as a kid, and I had really low self esteem, and I wasn't a happy kid growing up. Childhood to me was predicated on insecurity. So at every gathering, I was always huddled over to my parents, and I was labeled as the shy boy in every form of gathering. I vividly remember, and this was a gnarly memory. I mean, it just happened so much. But my dad always had to push me around to the other kids my age, and he would be the one to introduce me. And he would introduce me and say, "Hey guys, this is little Joshy." So I was called little Joshy to all the kids my age and all the parents. Yeah, my name's Josh, but that's what they referred me to. Not sure why my family would think that would be a good idea to get a kid out of his shell, so to speak, but I mean, it's such a disempowering thing thinking about it. But nonetheless, I was never good socially. I think I only had like 5 to 10 friends, and I could count on my fingers the amount of friends I had in my childhood, but I wasn't good at school either. In grade school, I was dubbed the king of remedial classes because I failed every examination, and I was also nicknamed the king of daydreaming by my teachers. Because from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., I'd look outside for birds and look at all the trees from the windows of my classroom. Now, I was a pretty overweight kid until the age of 10, and I shifted from school to school, and every single school I was called names. As far as talent goes, I had nothing under my belt. My siblings were 8th grade students, and they were coming home with awards in school, and my parents would be so proud of them, and I was just in their shadows, but I was also happy for them to know that they were recognized for some sort of significance, or at least had some sort of a title. But I think at one point I was like, okay, I'll try to figure something out. So I was universally terrible at sports because I was such a big kid. So I thought I would venture into music instead, even if it wasn't at my best of interests. Because at the time, my sister had a singing coach and would have voice and piano lessons, and my brother had a band and he was a drummer. So singing was evidently not for me. So I was like, okay, the piano would do. Should be simple anyways. Just moving and pressing some buttons with your fingers. But I kid you not when I say this, but I just didn't understand anything about it, and I didn't know why. Maybe I was just a slow learner, or maybe I was just comparing myself to my sister. It seemed like everything I heard from my teachers would come in from my left ear and would just exit out of my right. Nothing would process into my brain. But I thought, okay, she was just greater than me at it, and her standards were just too high. So about a year in, still at beginner level, one day during piano class when I was sitting beside my sister, attempting to play the piano, my teacher said in front of us, "Your sister is just so much more talented than you." And he said it with no malice. But I didn't take it personally. I allowed myself to carry that chip on my shoulder, and I just thought, okay, I'll just shift into learning to play the drums. I got my feet wet with music anyways, and I liked the idea of taking a few hours of my week to go out and learn, if you could call it that. Besides, it made me feel somewhat better of myself than to feel like a lump of jelly that just stays home all day. So I told my dad if he could set me up with my brother's drum instructor or teacher, and surely enough, he did. And yeah, if you're wondering why, how come I couldn't ask my brother instead, I don't know. There was, on top of that, a lot of family problems going on internally, but same thing happened. I spent a good amount of time trying to figure it out, and nothing. So I was just like, screw this. I held the white flag and basically stopped trying. So bad at school, constantly bullied growing up, having little to no friends. I didn't excel at anything. Growing up rough, which in itself is another topic, but there wasn't any outlet for me other than to play computer games at home. But fast forward to high school, during the summer of graduating grade school, I starved myself and I wasn't eating any food. Certainly nothing healthy. But I thought, you know what? After losing a lot of weight, my appearance looked like the other kids now, so maybe my new high school would accept me. One thing to note about the high school that I went to is that it's the worst school in my district. But that would be an understatement because it was ranked worst in my city. Fun fact, I grew up in Hong Kong, and this school, which I don't think I should be naming, was where all the kids that got kicked out of proper schools went to. Which I didn't know until I told other people that I was going there, but everyone in my grade school went to their dream schools, and I was rejected from all 14 schools that I applied to, but this one. And it was literally nicknamed a war zone. Like, there were actual gangbangers and students that were twice the age of regular high school students were placed there. The discipline teachers would even have to beat the kids at the school. It was nuts. So, first few months of high school, I kept my head down and I did nothing but observe the culture and how the people were acting, the mannerisms, the language, their interests. I wanted to know everything as much as I can from the people I should be keeping an eye out for. And it was crazy. There were gang fights and they used knives. Some fights would get real brutal. But yeah, I had to carry a pocket knife with me every day for the first year to be safe, and I just knew that I had to change my identity if I wanted to fit in. So I played basketball, because that was what all the gangster kids were doing, right? They would skip their classes and just play in the school court. But I only played basketball at the school's vicinity by the time I was good enough, because they would try to rob you and take your things if you were a soft person or if you lost the game against them. So time came and I finally got good enough, and this might have been on my second year of high school now, that all of a sudden I moved differently and I talked differently, and people in my school really started to notice me. And yeah, I played ball with the cool kids and got the respect. So now they protected me. And if you were friends with one of the gangbangers, the whole gang would be cool with you. And this school was filled with different gangs, man. But I finally fit in, and what do you expect goes on from here? I was a younger kid and I didn't know any better, and I was hanging out with these people, but I had to. That was my security. Studying in a school where bloody fistfights happen multiple times a week, you'll have to come up with a solution to not get beaten up. Yeah, in my first year when no one really knew me when I was a freshman, I got my things stolen by other kids, and a couple times I had to exchange my lunch meal for a beat down free card, and I had to give them my money. So there were times in my freshman years I remember locking myself in the bathroom stalls so no one would bother me. So after that first year, I was like, nah, that's not gonna be happening anymore. I can't accept that. I was bullied my whole grade school life. I'm not gonna let it happen in my high school life. So I did all that I've mentioned. My second and third year was great, but I don't know, maybe exposing those experiences wouldn't be the smartest thing to do on YouTube. But a lot of negative things were happening to me in my personal life at home during my high school life. I grew up with family problems for as long as I could remember, but during this period, there was a lot of domestic violence and things like that going on. So I was hanging out with my now, at the time, new school friends and their buddies outside of school. I was like 13, but by the way, I was a big 13-year-old. I looked much older than I actually was. You'd be shocked, but yeah, that's not really the point. Hanging out with 18 to 20-year-olds at the time, and man, now that I'm 20, I still wouldn't do the things I was doing when I was 13. That's just so crazy to me. Being arrested multiple times and doing some stuff. And my favorite memory, flushing down my school report cards every school year so that my dad and mom wouldn't see my grades. At this moment, I was never really making it to spend time with my family. So my family life throughout my 3 years in high school was just getting worse and worse, constant fighting between my siblings and the separation of my mom and dad. And school grades never registered as a priority. But at the beginning of the first week on my third year of high school, my dad tricked me into going to the Philippines. Yada, yada, yada. We were supposed to go there just to visit family for a few days. But once we arrived, my dad said, "Hey, son, we've packed our bags. Now you're going to find yourself a new school. We're going to restart our lives here, and there's no going back." And I was dumbfounded. Like, what? Are you kidding me? So now I'm in the Philippines. Yes, I'm Filipino by blood, but I was born and raised in Hong Kong. This time, I was maybe 14 years old now, looking to find a school in the Philippines. It took me some time because the timing was a bit weird. But I finally acclimated to the whole transition, and although I'm Filipino by blood, I'm the most uncultured individual ever, okay? Like, I'm a blank slate as far as culture wise. Also, didn't know anyone when I moved to the Philippines, didn't really know the language, didn't understand culture, knew nobody, but yeah, I wasn't excited to go back to school, especially because of what the transition was like. But I could finally interact with people, and that was great. fit in fairly easily once I got back to school life, but one thing I figured out about myself that separated me from others was that I had the natural ability to harness negativity and fuel myself in a way to endure things more than others can. Learning to harness the rage in myself, learning to harness the things I didn't like is powerful. And when people only see the beautiful in life, it's like I get the inclination, but you're missing out on a really powerful tool, and that is anger and disappointment, betrayal and ruin, and just abject failure is something you can learn from, and it's something that can drive you. But it was the ability to adapt to nuance and be okay with myself and endure things when everything is falling apart is what I learned later on in my life. Yeah, ended up finishing high school. That was great. Cheated my way out. I was charming with words, I'll give myself that. So that's how I managed to cheat. Took high school as a vacation, really though, but found a few people along the way that almost resembled the degenerate side when I was a younger teen in Hong Kong. Went to college, switched from college course to college course 3 times in 3 years. College was just a joke to me, or school as a whole. So decided to drop out, and everything since I've dropped out, I've audited. And now I'm just restarting my life again. Here's something interesting that Mahatma Gandhi went about, if you know him. When he had the mission to liberate the oppressed, he went about a process in which he started from zero and removed everything in his life and only filled back the things that were in line with his goals. So that was what I also went about doing. And I was starstruck to hear that because I heard about it after I did the exact same thing. So if you're still tuning with me to this video, I'd really be happy. Before I started this channel, I just virtually wanted to create a megaphone catering to connect with people just like me or who resonate with me. In a world with over 7 billion people, I'm sure there's a couple people out there, you know, dropping out of college. I ran away from everything, rebelled against everything my family has said, and now I'm really just trying to show them that I can carve my own path in life. And this is my story. No one's holding the pen. And I don't care about the judgment of what Johnny Pants 69 says about me. I don't care about what my relatives say about me, and equally could care less about what my dad has to say, even though I love them to death and I would do anything for him. I won't appease to the reality of how they think I should do things in my life. I highly admire people that would do things for their family, but that's just not me. I'd rather have them, say, be disappointed in the short term for not following what they think is right, but have them proud in the long term. Like, this is a serious thing when some kids growing up do things to appease their parents and follow the path their parents have chosen for them. And when these kids turn 30, 40, they have resentment towards their parents because they went the path that was laid out for them and they did things that they really didn't choose, and all that life wasted. So maybe I just dread being told what to do, or I look past what quote unquote higher authorities say, but you can't put in the hours unless you love what you're doing. I don't know if you agree with my approach or whatever you call it, but one thing that's irrefutable is that loving what you're about leads to the most success. So if there's anything I want to leave the 1% that's still watching this, don't fall into the trap of what the social cultural norms are. You can build your own reality, and you're the architect of your life. I don't know if my energy is just rubbing off the wrong way. However, I don't know how my message may have come across to you, but I actually do live in accordance to an abundance of gratitude and empathy and compassion. And I do believe in the boomerang of life, where if you spread things with positivity, positivity will come right back at you. And the last words to you that's hearing this, just jump, pull the trigger, and be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to be naked, so to speak. Vulnerability may seem like a weakness, but it's a strength. People will downplay how badly they want something so that if they don't end up getting what they want, they don't look stupid. It's just a fear based emotion as opposed to operating out of love. There are times in your journey that you'll need to lock yourself and remember who you are. When you're consumed by your own passion, you're not focused on anybody else or anything else. And we're gonna win together. Yeah, you and I. And we're gonna do it the right way. That's my purpose in life. There's so much corruption and people winning by letting others go down, and I don't like that, man. I want to tell my story and have people believe that doing good for others is the way to win. I'm sure you've had your fair share of accolades and struggles in your life, but you will fall. It isn't going to be easy, it isn't supposed to. A certain amount of struggle is needed to appreciate success, but breakdowns result in breakthroughs. Peace and love.
Madam Carlyle wants to inspect the arrangements for the staged funeral tomorrow. What's the delay?
It's the birds. They're making a racket, droppings everywhere. The undertaker wants them gone before he'll see Madame Carlyle. He's in a right state. So unless you want to take on the birds, I suggest you stay clear of him.
Oh, no, my aim's horrible. Safer for everyone if I just wait here till he says he's ready for Madam.